Good morning. We're here. We are here. Type in your comments. Type in or give us a thumbs up or tell us that you're there. We kind of try to wait each morning, make sure we got the bulk of who is usually free at 11 o'clock logged in with us. So let me know who's there. Let's see if Alicia with Sophia and Casey. Joey's nodding his head. They're the first ones that I got. Sophia's usually the first one on. They are watching their clock. So you can see, while we're waiting for everybody, you can see my goofy bird here. See my silly bird? Can you tell what it is? I'm going to draw a silly bird today.
Patrick, Lydia, Cora,
Hi,
Sunny.
Lydia. Hi, Patrick.
Cora and Sunny.
Hi, Cora and Sunny. We're drawing our silly bird today. He's makes me smile every time I look at him, and it's kind of dreary out this morning, isn't it? I mean, the rain's just finishing. The sun hasn't come out. So I thought our silly bird will make us smile today. It's really a fun project, but we also learn a lot about contouring with our silly bird. We're going to create just about his whole shape from the way you draw your colored pencil lines to make his fur feathers. Because if he's an ostrich, he'd be feathers, right? Yeah. So the angle that we draw our lines to make our ostrich feathers is going to create all the shape of his body.
Anna and Finley.
Hi, Anna. Hi, Finley. Did you like your Groots? Let's see. Finley had a Groot, right? Anna had a really pretty little bowl she'd made. Your Groot looked cute, Finley. And your owl turned out nice.
And Casey isn't there. It's just Sophia.
Oh, just Sophia? Is Casey doing schoolwork, Sophia?
And yes, it's an ostrich.
It is an ostrich. It is an ostrich. He's cute. Now, I don't know that I've ever seen an ostrich in the colors that I chose, but I was having fun. That's when you're the artist, you can pick whatever colors you want. So let's see if I could guess maybe your favorite colors.
There's Nick.
Hi, Nick. So let's see. Lydia might want to do like teals and blues, maybe. My ostrich has got, can you tell all the colors on him? He's got blues, dark blues, purples, and a little bit of brown, and a little bit of green. So I had fun making him. So you could be thinking of all these colors. We're going to look at how to draw him, because when you look at a picture like this that makes you smile. Oh, Mr. Mark's handed me some pretty ostrich. These are peacock feathers.
No, those are, the peacocks have the heart in them. Those are the ostrich feathers.
Look. These are some ostrich feathers that Mr. Mark just showed me. We keep some ostrich feathers that we order, and then ostriches have a relative called emu. They also have another relative that's called a ray. I'm turning them so you guys can see. Can you see the colors? Isn't that bizarre? Look at these pretty colors on this ostrich feather. These might be an emu or ray feather. They're like an ostrich. They're like cousins to them.
No, those are the ostrich feathers.
Mr. Mark says those are ostrich feathers. So I see, I don't know if you could see the colors. I see some blues and some greens and some purples and some yellows and some browns. I think I see just about every color in there. So we're going to get creative with our ostriches. We are going to actually use our Sharpie for just a little bit of this project. Can you tell what I used the Sharpie on and what I used the colored pencil on? We used the Sharpie for his eyes because we want them to have more of a slick, glossy look to them. And then the colored pencil, we're going to get a lot of blending for his cute little beak. So what you need today is one more of these pieces of white paper that you had on your clipboard. How are we doing with people logging in? So we look pretty good. We'll need our Sharpie for just a little bit. You need your set of colored pencils. I got mine, and this is one of Mr. Mark's cups or one of Joey's cups? Mr. Mark's cups. So you need your set of colored pencils. Grab yourself a pencil, and you might want your eraser. We're going to kind of block him in. One of the things that makes him look so silly and makes you smile is that he's got his head cocked and he's got this kind of goofy grin. I think an ostrich's beak, when their mouth is shut, kind of looks like he's partly smiling. Kind of when we look at our dolphin in the ocean. They bottlenose dolphins look like they're smiling. My ostrich looks like he's smiling. So I'm going to let Mr. Joey pull the camera in, and we're going to look at how to block this ostrich in. And I got to move my stool so I don't kick the camera. I'm going to put our ostrich feathers up here so they're out of the way. Let's put our ostrich down here that you can see. I don't need my Sharpie right away, so I'm going to put it up there. And let's see if I can figure out the spot Mr. Joey likes me to put things. Is that good? We'll lay our feathers up here to inspire you. Okay, let me see if I can sit down here next to the camera without kicking the camera. Okay. So you got your piece of paper? This is a good one to do vertically. So put your paper up and down, vertical or portrait. And we're going to give him this nice long neck. But the first thing we're going to do is give him really lightly. I'm going to sketch lightly with my pencil. Remember, I always press a little harder just because the camera can't see my real light pencil lines. So I'm going to sketch a little darker. Use light pencil lines because we don't really want to see all our pencil lines through his pretty fur. So we're going to look at the shape of his head. And feathers. I keep calling him fur. Ostriches have feathers. So we're going to look at the shape of his head, which is shaped like a circle. So here's about the middle of my paper, right? So let's find about the middle of the paper. If you got about the middle of the paper, we're going to put our circle up above, just above the middle of the paper. I'm going to move it over to this side a little bit because I want his neck to curve and come down. So I'm going to lightly draw myself a circle. I told kids in here in the studio once, easy way to do this. See my little pinky finger? I kind of hold my pencil just off the paper and start making a circle with my pencil before it even touches. And then I kind of lower my pencil down a little bit and I just keep going around so I'm barely touching the paper. Can you see my pencil line? Remember, I'm going to press a little dark here so you guys can see. Can you see them now? Now, you don't need to press that dark. See how I have 50 million little lines here? But I got a pretty good circle. This is just going to give us the basic shape. Because as you see, when we use our colored pencil and give him feathers, not fur, we're going to go a little past the circle with our lines. So we're not going to have a line of the circle. We're not even going to see this line after we erase a little bit. So if you've got a bunch of lines like me, you can come in and erase your like extra lines here just so we see that shape out there. So I'm going to kind of clean up my circle a little bit here. Okay, so got a circle. Now, look at his beak. If I lay my pencil down here, is his beak straight across on a horizontal? No, he's got his head tilted. So his two eyes are tilted and his beak is tilted. So what I want to do to draw his beak is I'm going to take my pencil and I want it on a diagonal like this, going through his head. Not right in the middle. This would be about the middle of my circle, right? So we want to go just a little bit below the middle. Okay? And we're going to very lightly give our, remember I'm going to press harder. We're going to very lightly give ourselves a little diagonal line going across the circle, just like that. Here's the middle of my circle, so I went a little below it. So give yourself a little diagonal line here. This is going to be our guideline to make his really goofy, silly little grinning mouth here, and then we'll use that as a guideline to put his eyeballs on. Ostrich's eyes are very far apart, aren't they, on the side of his head almost. So did you get your diagonal line in here? First thing we're going to do is make the top of his mouth, and it's in a curve, like we got part of a circle. So come here to the middle. This is the middle of my circle. If I think of my circle on a diagonal here, and in the middle here I want to draw half of a circle. I'm going to put a curve like that. Now it doesn't curve way up like a big dome, but give yourself a little curve there. Remember, you don't need to press hard because we're going to end up pretty much going over these lines. So you got a little bit of a curve there. This is the top of his mouth here. Do you notice how there's another copycat curve right underneath it? We leave just a little bit of space here. And we're going to put a little copycat curve right underneath that one. So we want it to follow right along with it, leaving just a little space between the two lines, okay? There's my top line, there's my bottom line. Okay, you got the two top parts of his mouth on. Now, see his little grin? This is like his top of his beak, and here's the bottom of his beak. Here's where we finished our curve that we just did. And then we're gonna go way out here, just a little ways. Here's the end of our curve. I'm gonna go out here near the edge of my circle. And I'm gonna come over here near the edge of this circle, and I'm gonna make this little line. See how we go up, and then we come across like this nice little grin, and come down on this side. So here's the end of my half circles. I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna go down below it a little bit. I'm gonna go out here, and first I'm gonna curve up, like a little bit of a frown. Then I'm gonna curve down in this nice big grin all the way across to the other side of my half circle. And then I'm gonna go down in a little bit of a frown. So my little frowns are past where my half circles were. See where my half circles ended? And then I made these little frowns come out here. Okay? Now we gotta connect. His poor little beak looks like it's in all kinds of parts and pieces. So we're gonna connect the copycat half circle I made. We're gonna connect, we're gonna go out here around the frown we made and make a curly Q. So go to this inside half circle you made, the copycat one, and I'm gonna go out here past the curly Q, or make a curly Q around the little frown there. Okay, then we're gonna come to the other side. Remember, you wanna come to the inside half circle, the copycat one you made. And from the copycat one, we're gonna curl out over the little frown, make a curly Q underneath it. Got a little mouth going here. Well, we should call it a beak. It's not a mouth, it's a beak. Now, look at the lower part of his beak here. Our little curly Q's came in, and we don't want this beak to be very wide, do we? So I curly Q'd up here. I want to follow, make a copycat curve for the lower part of his beak. It's going to go right across here and meet this curly Q over here. There's my little ostrich beak. Now I can get rid of this diagonal line in the middle of his beak, and it looks a little bit more like a beak, right? What's he missing on his beak? Can you tell? We got two little nostrils. Remember the first half circle we made? And then we made a copycat one. In between these two lines over on this side, we're going to do a little half circle for one nostril. And over on the other side, we'll do a half circle for his other nostril. Okay? They're like at the bottom of these two little half circles. Now here's, how are we doing? Has everybody got a beak on there? Give us some thumbs up. Am I going too fast? We doing okay? Okay, we got a beak on here. Now look at where, I want you to look at my finished ostrich here for a minute. Here's the end of his mouth. And if I drew a straight line up from the end of his mouth, look at where his eyeball is. His eyeball doesn't sit in here over the top of his beak, does it? It sits right out here at the outside edge of his beak. See how it lines up? Look at this outside. If I went straight up, there's his eyeball on the other side. So if I come out here to his little end of his beak here and drew a straight line up from it, a straight line up from it over here, this is where I'm going to put his eyeballs. They're going to be that far out on the side of his head. They're almost on the sides and not on the front. Now let's look. Are they way up here on the top of his head? Do I put his eyeballs up here? Nope, they're pretty close down to his beak. Here's the top of his beak. Here's a good way to know. When you're drawing something and you're trying to figure out where to put it, look at where it is in relationship to something else. We already looked in relationship to the sides of his mouth. We know his eyes are way out here. Let's look at where his eyes are in relation to the top of his mouth. Here's the top of his beak. I put my pencil across the top of his beak. Where do my eyeballs fall? They fall right in the middle of that, don't they? So we don't want his eyeballs way up here. We want them to be right in the middle of the top of his beak. So if I took the top of his beak and drew a diagonal line, look at where, can you see my line? I got to draw my things a little darker than you. Look at my diagonal line. It goes right through the middle of my circle. So my ostrich's eyes are going to land right in the middle of the circle. Not up at the top, not down next to his beak, but right in the middle of the circle. So I drew a line. I want them to not be in too far. And what does this side of his eyes look like? We're actually going to draw kind of a football shape here. So we're going to make this curve first. And let's see. I want the middle of the curve to be right here. His eyeballs were going to fall right in the middle there, weren't they? So I'm going to put a curve right here for one eyeball. I'm going to come over here and make a curve over here for the other eyeball. Kind of got him lined up. I got an awful lot of lines and zigzags and diagonal lines to figure out where to put things. Did you kind of get his eyeballs in a good spot? They're kind of across from the top of his nose and out here at the outside of his beak. Do we find a good spot for them? On the outside, we want to come and give a little curve on the outside, like this, for his eyes. Just put a curve on the outside here. It could curve just a little bit more. Mine didn't curve very much, did it? So I could curve it out just a little bit more. There we go. So let's see. You got a beak on there and you got eyes on there. Give me a thumbs up if you got your eyes where you like them, and you got your beak where you like it. Kind of got everything going where we like it. Are we seeing some thumbs up, Mr. Mark? Mr. Joey's shaking his head. How are you guys doing? Did we get some eyeballs? Did we get a beak on there?
Oh, yeah. We're starting to get some now.
Okay. Remember, we look at where we put his beak on a diagonal. When we look at the top of his beak, we want his eyeballs to kind of fall right in the middle there. They're going to fall right in the middle there. And then we want them way out here on the sides of the paper, out here at the edge of his beak. See where the edge of his beak is here? So we want to think of putting his eyeballs right out here on the sides, right up from the side of his mouth, and right in the middle of the top of his mouth. So we got some eyeballs. Now, we're only going to give ourselves a few more guidelines. This is his nice round head. But do you notice on my ostrich, here's his nice round head. What cuts up in the middle of his round circle head? His neck. His neck's going to come right down from where his beak is. So I want to find inside where the curly cues went. Here's where his neck's going to come down. So I'm going to put one side of my neck and the other side of my neck. Now we're going down on a diagonal like this. We're not going to turn a corner so he looks like he has a kink in his neck. But we're going to start down like this, and then we're going to gradually just curve his neck, just gradually curve it so we straighten out. And then this one doesn't have to straighten out as much. Just like a tree trunk, his neck's going to get a little wider as it goes down. So we got this nice little curve coming up, and a nice little curve coming up on this side. There's my ostrich's neck. See, starting to look more like an ostrich on your paper? So I'm going to erase that curve from the bottom of my circle because I don't need to see that. He looks like he's kind of bald here with just our circle. So you know what I did? His feathers, this is what we're going to try with our colored pencils. We're going to make our pencil lines go in the contour of his face. We're going to create these curves right here at his cheek. See how my colored pencil lines curve right under his eye for his cheek here? And then the pencil lines are going to curve right in diagonal right into his eye. And then they're going to go straight up like a mohawk on the top of his head. So I'm going to give myself just a few little pencil lines like this. I know the top of his head, I want my pencil lines to go right past the top of my circle because he's going to get a little mohawk here. So I'm going to give myself a few little pencil lines that are going to go straight up from his beak like this. So they're not going to go straight like that, right? Because his head's not straight. They're going to go straight up from his beak like this. That'll remind me when I'm making pencil lines here, I want them to go that direction. And do you see? We're straight up here, and then they start tipping over in a diagonal till we get to the top of his eyeballs here. So I'll give myself a few little lines, just like I'm making spokes on a bicycle. They're going to tip over till I get down to his eye. And then they're going to tip over here until I get down to his eye. This will just remind me when I'm using my colored pencil, if we've made our pencil lines really, really light, and I'll show you what we can do with your eraser to lighten them up once we know where we want things to go. This is important. Right from his beak here to his eyes, we want the lines to go diagonally right across from where his nostrils are on his beak to his eye. So we're going to go right across and make sure we get some lines right there that go right across to his eye. And then here's what helps shape his head. Do you notice right below his eye, the lines start curving like this and whisking out? They curve down right here, and then they whoosh out underneath. So we're going to curve a few lines out here, so I remember to do that. And then I'm going to whoosh out underneath. Curve over here like his little cheek, and then come out underneath. That's going to help me remember where to put my lines. His neck's easy. His neck looks kind of fat to me. So you know what? I'm going to skinny up his neck a little bit right here. There we go. I don't think ostriches have really fat necks. So I'm going to make this one a little skinnier right there. Okay. How are you guys doing? Are you getting some guidelines on there? There we go. I like his skinnier neck. Do you like his neck a little skinnier? So this is all going to be his feathers.
Your neck isn't centered on your beak.
Oh, well, it's centered under the nostrils. Here we go. I think my beak sticks out farther on this side than this side, doesn't it? It does, doesn't it? Yeah. So if I wanted my beak to match, I'd need to move this side over a little bit. But as long as his neck, what I'd do is line his neck up. If you bumped into his beak, if you continued through, it lines up with his nostril. Let's check this side. I bump into his beak. If I continued up, it almost matches where his nostril is. I'll move this nostril over a little bit. Okay, give me some thumbs up. You guys ready to use some color? Have we got your ostrich looking right? This is where you kind of look around and go, well, yeah, I like it. I think what I might do is move this guy's eye in a little bit. I think this eye looks like it's out just a little far. So I'm going to move this eyeball in a little bit. I think I'll like that better. Okay, so you got your lines where you want them, kind of. Here's what I'm going to suggest you do. We're going to use the Sharpie first and put his eyeballs on. And then we're going to lightly, with your eraser on its side, just go over your pencil lines. Don't press very hard, so it'll leave most of your pencil lines on there, but it's going to lighten them up a little bit. And then your colored pencil will go over them much better. Okay? Here's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to make his pupils black with our Sharpie. Then we're going to put the Sharpie away, and we're going to use colored pencils for the whole rest of him. But do you notice that the black part of his eyeball doesn't go all the way to the side? You see this little bit? I gave him some kind of yellow brownish eyes. Do you see this little edge out here on his eyes? Can the camera see it, Joey? Okay. So what we want to do is we want to color in this inside part, but see the little white spots that I left? That makes his eyes look like the light's reflecting off the glassy surface of his eyeball. And when we use the Sharpie, it always fills in more than you think. So what I want to do is I want to draw a spot. So I make sure I don't forget, and I want to leave the reflection. We're going to let the white of the paper make his reflections. So take one eyeball first, and we're going to make kind of a triangle shape, but it's going to be a triangle that's kind of curved and bent. So it follows the shape of his eyeball. Okay, so I'm going to make a little triangle shape in here. That way I make sure I leave that blank. Then I'm going to draw this side of the eyeball. But remember, when I draw the other side, I don't want to go all the way out to the pencil line. So I'm going to make a curve, but I'm going to keep it inside the pencil line. That way I can leave a little bit of space to put the outside of his eyeball on. Color this in. I left a little bit of space out there to my pencil line, and I'm going to do it over here too. Draw that curve. Don't forget to put your triangle on. I made my triangle bigger than I wanted because the ink kind of soaks in a little bit. See how small my triangle got? And remember, I don't want to go all the way to the pencil line. If you forget and do, that's okay. We can just add some color to his eyeball on the outside of your Sharpie line. So don't worry if you accidentally went all the way out to the pencil line. We'll just add an extra little layer to his eyeball out there. There goes. He's starting to look like my silly bird, isn't he? Okay, that's all we're going to use the Sharpie for. All the other black spots for eyelashes and nostrils and the mouth line, his beak line, we're going to use with our black colored pencil. And what I think I'm going to do is do his beak next. So I'm going to use my black. And can you tell what other colors I might have used? I'm going to use this kind of reddish orange I've got. I'm going to use a little bit of plain orange. That says orange. If you look on your colored pencils, they have a little word down here, because when I look at that one, I think it's kind of pinky colored, but this says red. Okay, so you can look on your colored pencil. If you wanted his beak to be more yellow and orange, you could use your yellow. You can make his beak whatever color you want. Do you notice one thing on his beak though? Do you notice where I see a little bit of white up here? And I see a little bit of white right underneath his mouth. And then right here in the middle of this beak, it's a little lighter. That helps give this beak some shape. It makes it look like it's sticking out at us. So when we color with colored pencils, we want to leave the white of the paper in a few spots, okay? So the first spot I'm going to use my black, and I'm going to go right over this very first half circle that we drew for the very top of his beak here. I'm going to use my black. I'm going to make a black line right up there on top of his beak. Okay? I'm going to make another black line in between my nostrils. So I'm not going to draw that whole half circle copycat line we made. I'm just going to draw this part with the black. I'm going to color in his nostrils with the black. And let's color in this nostril over here. And his nostrils look like a black hole because they are a hole in his beak. And we're just seeing this nice dark black shadow here. So I don't need to leave any reflection or anything in them. Okay, where's one more place? I'm going to outline his silly little grin here with my black colored pencil. So I'm going to go right along this line. I'm going right over my pencil line. Okay, I'm starting to see his beak come forward. Now I'm going to put a little bit of black underneath his beak too. Right under here, just in like the center, I think. We can always add some more later. Okay? Now, I'm going to use some of these colors and create his beak. I'm going to start with my orange, which looks like red, but it says orange on it. And remember how I want to leave a little white showing here? So I don't want to color all the way down to his nostril line. I'm going to put a little orange up here at the top. I can color in I'll color in this whole side over here by his nostril, but in the middle I want to leave a little bit of a white line showing there. And do the same thing under here. Remember how we left a white line underneath his top beak? So I'm going to come in here with my orange. I'm going to put a little bit of orange. I'm kind of pressing hard because I really want to see that orange color. But I don't want to go all the way up to that black line I made, so I'm going to leave a little white there too. And I can use this orange. I can come all the way over here, color my little curly Q I made. I'm pressing pretty hard because I want some nice orange color over here. I might press a little lighter as I turn the corner and come to his top beak. Remember how we want to leave some of the white of the paper, letting us make a lighter color here? So I don't need to press so hard on the top part. Over here I can press hard. Right around the curly Q that we made. And then I'm going to press a little lighter as it comes up here to his beak. And the way to press lighter is like make your fingers quit holding the pencil so tight. Loosen the grip on your pencil and then you'll press lighter. Okay? So as you come into the top of his beak from your curly cues, press a little lighter. I might put a little orange up here at the top. Underneath his nostrils here, I can press a little harder up here. The part we want to look the lightest is in this part. That's the part that's sticking out towards us. So if we make it lighter, it looks like it just jumps right off the page and comes out towards you.
We're missing a piece of your beak on the bottom, right?
Oh, let's connect our orange over here. There we go. Okay. So I pressed a little harder up here on the top. And then I'm going to press a little lighter as it comes down. Momentarily, for at least for this moment right now, I'm going to kind of leave a white hole in the middle there. Okay? What other color do you think we used here? I used a little bit of this red. Maybe I'll try this red-orange. If you've got this one that says red-orange on it, you can try a little bit of that. I can put it right on top of my orange to kind of give me a little bit deeper color. And then loosen my grip and let it get a little lighter towards the center. I'll come do a little of this red-orange over here. Whenever you make a drawing or artwork, it always makes the artwork much more interesting if you get lots of layers of color on it. So look at his feathers. We're going to get all kinds of layers. Wait till I show you how we're going to make feathers. We're going to make all kinds of layers of color. I'm going to put a little of this red-orange down by the bottom of this beak. Just a little. I'm pressing very lightly. And then, what other color do you see there? I see a little bit of brown. So I didn't want to use black. I didn't want it to be that dark. But I want to darken it up on these sides over here. That's going to help make the middle feel like it sticks out more. So I'm going to layer some brown colored pencil right on top of my orange and my red orange out here on the sides. I'm going to put a little bit of it up here at the top. I'm going to put a little down here in this curly Q underneath his beak here. This would be a good spot to have a little bit of dark under there. Okay, what do you think? I kind of like his beak. If you want to put a little brown on the bottom side of his beak down here, we could. We could put a little color coming very lightly, almost all the way into the center there if you want. Just leave a little white in the middle. Now, does his beak look like it's sticking off the paper, sticking out at you, doesn't it? So we left a little bit of light right in the middle here. We pressed really lightly with our colored pencils as we got to the middle, and I actually left just a little spot of the white paper that I didn't even put the light colors on. Okay? Now, here is the really fun part of making this ostrich. I really don't care if I see this circle line, so I'm going to come in between where I put my guidelines and kind of erase out that dumb circle. I don't want it to show through my colored pencils. Then it might make him look like he's a little bald or something. So I'm going to try to erase some of that off. Now, I used blues and purples and browns and greens on him. I really liked him, those colors. They worked really well. You could do whatever colors you like. I kind of like that. And my granddaughter likes blue like her mommy does. So he might be a good one to do in blues. So pick some colors. Pick maybe 2 or 3 colors that go nice together. If you look at the color wheel and look at colors that are close to each other, they'll go nicely together. Here's our color wheel. So you can tell when I look at my ostrich here, I use lots of blues and purples. They're next to each other on the color wheel. You could do yellows and greens if you wanted to. If you have a couple different shades of green, that would be pretty. Or reds and oranges. I don't think the reds and oranges would make him show up as well because those are the same colors we just used on his beak. So it would kind of make the beak not show up.
Could use yellow and brown.
But we could do yellow and brown. That would make him kind of cool colors. You could do yellows and greens. You could do greens and blues if you wanted. See how I added some green down here with my blues? So think of what colors you'd like to do and pick a color. And the easiest thing is I picked like one of the lighter colors. I knew I was going to use some blue, and I knew I had a dark blue and a light blue, and the purple's kind of light. So I started with my light color because I can keep layering and put dark colors on top to create his shape. So what I want to do is I'm going to make these mohawk lines first. Now, I don't want him to look like he's just got one row of feathers on the front of his face. So what I did was start, and I can still kind of see my circle line. Can you guys still see the shape of your circle? I started by making that outside line. Since I'm not going to draw a line like this, I want the feathers to create the line. So I'm going to start up here with just some short little lines, and I'm going to put them going all around, just like I was making spokes on a bicycle. They're going to make that circle line. I'm going to go right around where I know the circle is, and I'm going to put short little lines that are going to stick out right over the top. My circle line's right underneath there. But I'm going to create the outside edge of his head by making all these short little lines. Right now I'm just going to go down to his eyes because remember we talked about these lines are going to go a different direction. But I've kind of created the top of his head so I know where his head is. Now I can add all kinds of more lines. I can come in here and add some longer ones here. They're all going to follow these guidelines. Remember the guidelines that we put down like this? So all my lines, when I put some in between there, they're going to fill in that same angle. So I'm going to give him some more feathers in here. And some more. I can bring some feathers right up from his nose. I can make some really long feathers in the front here. And see how I'm leaving lots of white space? And I still even see some white space. Look on my finished bird over here. See how I still see some of the white spaces showing? It really makes a cool three-dimensional look. So I'm going to leave lots more spaces here because I'm going to use a couple more colors, right? But I want some of this light blue to put it down right on top of his beak and pull it up. Right on top of his beak and pull it up. And I can put some going this way. Think spokes on a bicycle. Or rays coming out from the sun. And I got some blue. About time to do, I want this angle, this diagonal line to go right over the top of his eye. There we go. Now I can pull in, I got a dark blue here. So I can come put some dark blues here. Maybe out here on the sides. I can put some up near the top. All the lines don't have to go from here to here. You can put short ones in between, long ones in front of those. Helps him look like he's more three-dimensional, like he's got lots of layers of feathers, which I'm sure they do. So I've put some dark blue in here. Is he starting to take shape? Now, do you notice where I used a lot of the dark blue? Underneath in here, because the dark blue automatically gives me kind of that shadow to him. So I'm going to skip. I can always come up here and add more. I might put a few really long mohawk ones in here. Let's give him a few with the dark blue that are the long mohawk ones. There. Okay. Now I'm going to stop for a minute filling in up here, and I'm going to work on the other parts of his head just so it starts taking shape for me. And one of the things I want to do is underneath these curly cues here, I want to give him some of the really dark colors. And if I imagine my circle came around, I want to come underneath. Now I'm not going to color in his neck yet. I'm going to come underneath these curly cues, and I'm going to put some nice long feathers sticking out. I'm going to use my dark color here. And I want to imagine if I was actually drawing a circle, the circle would come around. Yep. So let's put a few dark ones on this side. I can come right up from underneath where his beak is. Get some dark right in there. Don't want him to look too straight. I'm going to give him a little bit of curl on the end. I think he might have curly hair. And let's give him a few more dark ones coming right around this curly cue. Okay. So got some dark ones there. I might even take my brown and add some brown strokes right in there. The brown doesn't really show up too much. I'm almost going right over the top of my blue lines, but it kind of makes it dark. I want this part to kind of have a nice shadow to it because it's underneath and in back of his head there. Now I can come, I'm still going to use my dark, and what I want to create is this nice little curve. How are we doing? Is everybody doing okay? You starting to put feathers on? Give us a thumbs up if you're starting to put your feathers on. Don't want to get too far ahead of you. We getting some nice feathers? No thumbs up? Mr. Joey says he doesn't see any thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. Somebody hit that thumbs up.
It takes a second, Mom. It's a delay. It's not instant.
Oh, Mr. Joey says it's not instant when I say something. You guys don't see it instantly.
They're like 10 seconds behind you.
Oh, okay.
You're like
I gotta give
20 seconds behind.
Oh, I didn't realize. I thought you guys heard me in real time. Mr. Joey and Mr. Mark say it's like a 20-second delay. Okay?
But you're getting a bunch of thumbs up. So
okay, so we're doing good. Now, here's the other contour I want you to really get. See how from up here where his nostrils meet his beak, see how we get a curve to our feathers. This is almost like giving him a little cheek. Okay? We don't want to flatten out his face here because we want his face to look like it curves up to meet his beak. So come right in here where your half circle we made meets the beak, right near where his nostrils are. And we're going to make some lines that curve out like this. So give us some nice curves. Remember, my lines don't fall right on top of each other, so I see a little bit of white. But we're going to curve out right. It wants to curve up and go right underneath where the eyeball is. Okay? Then we can add a few right around here to fill in. There we go. Then we're going to come on this side. We're going to do the same thing right at this corner here next to the nostril. We're going to curve up and go underneath this eye over here. So we give him this kind of curvy cheek. I got to turn my paper so I can curve the right way. There we go. I'm going to make sure it's really dark where it meets in here, and then fill in between my curvy ones here and my ones that I put down there. Oh, he looks cute. Okay. Whoops, got to put my paper back up here so you can see. Now, I want to fill in these feathers. These feathers are going to come across. This can get a little curve to it, but then we want them to come across, kind of straight across to meet his eyeball. I'm going to use some of my dark blue. We come across to the eyeball. And then I'm going to use a little of the light blue. Let's give ourselves a little bit more light blue. I can put some light blue sticking out on the ends here. Fill in a little more here with my light blue. And do you see one thing that's on here that's not on here? He's got like these little eyelashes. They kind of help sit his eyeball down inside his head. So I'm going to go back to my black here. Before I do his eyeballs, I'm going to put this little outside ring. So I'm making a little copycat line with my black colored pencil to make this outside edge of color. I got to erase my pencil line in there. Do you see how you can erase? The colored pencil will stay there if you erase lightly, and it'll take that pencil line out. So I'm going to make a copycat line outside his eyeball here with my black colored pencil. I'm going to erase the pencil that's inside. Okay? And then I made him have yellow. I thought it would show up nicely. So put a little yellow in there for the little color on his eyes. I like the yellow. And I'm going to make these eyelashes just like they feel like they're following the same curve as the eye. So we got this curve going here. I'm going to pretend that I'm just going to go right off that curve. So I'm going to come right off this curve, and I'm going to put a few eyelashes. I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom here. Put a few down here. They don't have to stick out very far. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to come right off that. And I'm going to come right off the bottom. There we go. Now, while I've got my black out, I could even do a few little black feathers right where we want it to have the most shadow underneath here. I could put a few black ones in here. You saw the ostrich feather Mr. Mark gave us. It looked like it had every color under the sun. So I added a few black right here. Just helps give a little shadow to his head. The other one I didn't add was any purple. You want to see what the purple will look like? Is this the purple? No, this is the blue. Here's my purple. So I could put some purple in here. Look at that. Could add some purple feathers right up here in the mohawk. That'd be pretty. Now I'm still leaving parts of white. You can think of going like almost right over a line you made with another color. So we still leave a little bit of white showing. This just gives a little hint of purple in his head. I like the little hint of purple. And I'm kind of liking his head. I could keep going and see, I want to get a few more little feathers that kind of anchor his eye here. So you can start from this side and go that way. If you need to kind of fill in a little bit of space. Let's fill in a little space on this side too. So his eyeball doesn't look like it's going to fall off his head. Okay? I can make his feathers come out a little farther over here. Make sure he's got a nice round shape to his head where your feathers came out. If he seems to get a flat spot, you can give him a few more feathers sticking out. Okay? So I think he's got a nice fluffy head going. I'm going to do the same thing on his neck. But do you notice right up here under his beak, I used a lot of brown, didn't I? Because his beak sticks out, so it's going to cast a shadow there. So I started the same way. I started with my light blue. And I came, now these lines want to follow the shape of his neck, which goes this way. So I don't want to get straight lines in here. It would look like I've squashed his neck flat. So I want these lines to follow the sides of his neck like this. Okay, can we see those lines, Mr. Joey? So you can give yourself a couple guidelines. So you want to follow this curve of the outside of his neck as you curve on. Now, look at my finished one. Does he have a line down the side of his neck? No. So it's the same with his head. I'm going to lightly use my eraser so I can lightly take that pencil line off. I still want it there as a guide so I know how big his neck's going to be. But you can lightly erase over the top of your pencil line. and take most of that dark pencil off. Then you can come in, and I'm gonna, just like I went around with my short little lines to make my circle of his head, I'm gonna use some short little lines that are gonna stick out like this. They're pointing down, but they're kind of curving and following the line of his neck. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to come right along where I see this, and I'm going to stick some little feathers out right from that line. There we go. And then I can come in just like on his head. I can start putting all kinds of feathers coming down until I fill in this whole little neck. As they get out to the side, I'm going to angle them more this way. As they come to the middle, they're going to go more straight down like this. And then when they get to this side, they're going to angle out that way a little bit. So you can put all kinds of layers of feathers in here. And I even decided, I tried my dark green. This one says green. This one's more of a yellowy light green. So since I didn't have any yellow on him, I decided I'm going to use a little of the green. So I'm going to, in the middle, they're going to curve straight down like this. As they come over to this side, they're going to angle a little more out to the side. Some of these are short, some of these are longer. You can put short ones in, you can layer some short ones over those. Layer, layer, layer. When we do art, lots of times it's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of layers. So I'm going to keep adding feathers on his neck. And then remember I said up in here we want his neck to get kind of dark underneath his beak. So I'm going to press hard with my lines, and I'm going to put a lot of short little lines real close together right underneath his beak. I'm going to try to be careful. I'm going to start my line right at the beak and pull it down, because I'm going to try not to get my green or my blue on his beak. I like his beak the way it is. Don't want to get my feather colors on it. Okay, so I got some green. I pressed really hard. I'm going to come back to my dark blue here. I'm going to add some dark blue right under his neck too, or under his beak. Okay, so I'm going to concentrate on getting this shadow on. Then I can always go and add more feathers down here. We might even try some other colors. But I'm going to press really hard, get lots of lines. Do you notice I'm kind of losing most of my white space? See how much white space I left up in here, where I wanted the top of his head to have more light on it? And remember, we hardly have any white space here where we get a little shadow. Right under his beak, I'm not going to have much white space showing, because I want to create a shadow there to make his neck look nice and three-dimensional. Okay, and since his beak sticks out like this, his shadow's going to be lower in the middle too. That beak sticking out is going to make us have a shadow that comes down further in the center than it does on the sides. But remember, these feathers want to follow the same angle as these feathers. Okay, so got some dark blue, I got dark green, and we're going to use a little bit of brown. The brown's going to help create a shadow here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go right over, and I can almost just color in as long as my pencil strokes go the same direction. See how I'm going to turn my pencil this way when I'm getting over here? But since I don't have any white space left, and I'm just adding a dark shadow under there, it's kind of in a half circle. See how my shadow kind of makes a half circle under his beak? Because that's kind of the shape of his beak. If we saw him from the side, his beak's going to poke out this way. So it's going to make a shadow in that kind of shape. So see how we created a shadow there? Then you can go back to just adding some cool colors. Should we give him some purple on his neck? I can come give him some pretty purple feathers. Maybe I'll make some curl. Maybe he's got curls to his hair. So We'll give him a few curls out on that side too. Give him some nice purple coming down. You just keep this is where as his neck comes down, we want to leave a little bit more white space like we did up in here. So you can keep coloring feathers. Are you liking your silly birds? Are they making you smile when you look at them? This would be a good project to give somebody, one of your neighbors that's been stuck in their house for a really long time, your grandmother or grandfather. You could send this drawing to them. You could find yourself another piece of paper and make another one. You've got your colored pencils. You can turn the video back on and watch how to draw his face. I'm gonna put some more feathers down here so he doesn't look like he got bald at the bottom of his neck. There we go. What do you think, Mr. Joey? More color any place? Should we do a little bit more green? I liked the little hint of green showing on his neck. Thought that was kind of cool. Since I got a little hint of green showing on his neck, should we put a little green up here? Let's give him just in a few spots. We'll see a little green out at the edges there. We'll give him just a little bit of green in his head too. There we go. So what do you think? Take some pictures. I want to see what colors. Did we come up with any different color combinations with your ostriches? Some of you might have made a rainbow ostrich. Some of you might have started on his head with the purple and the dark blue and the light blue, and then gone to green and gone to yellow and gone to orange and gone to red. So take some pictures so we can see your silly birds. They sure make me smile, so it will really make me smile if I see all of your ostriches. So take a picture, tag Idea Studio here, give that little @ Idea Studio when you post your picture. They look like they're sisters, huh? Or brothers? They look like they're from the same family. So take a picture for me, post it up on Facebook, and put your @Idea Studio, otherwise I don't get to see them. And we'll see if we can put some into our slideshow tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday, and we've got a project we're going to do. So right now I'm going to let you finish putting feathers on your ostriches, take some pictures, make sure you go on and order your activity bag. We need to know how many because we're putting clay in them this Saturday. We're going to make a cool clay project next week. So order your bags today. That will help us figure out how much clay we need to get ready. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.